السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ثم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا عظيما وأن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة أعتدنا لهم عذابا أليما اللهم لا تجعلنا منهم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله واللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. Can everyone hear me clearly in the back? Can you guys hear me? Raise your hand if you cannot hear me. If you can't hear me. Okay, good. Nobody raised their hand. All right. I wanted to make this first session, incha-Allah ta'ala, and dedicate this one session to what I feel is one of the most pressing issues in the lives of Muslim youth, one that I have come to experience myself personally at one point in my life, and as I've had the opportunity to travel more recently and interact with many, many young people across the country, I'm noticing that it's not a program localized to one community or limited to one specific kind of person, but rather it's happening pretty much almost universally. And I guess I'd probably want to term that a crisis of faith and a crisis of confidence in the religion. You know, alhamdulillah, many of you that are sitting here are Muslims that are eager to learn something more about their religion, and they want to advance further, and inshallah ta'ala, you guys are the hope for becoming ambassadors of this religion, not just to non-Muslims, but even to your struggling Muslim friends and family that are Muslim, but they're barely holding on to their faith. And they're barely holding on to any semblance of Islam in their lives. And you are, at this point, the only people, the only connection essentially that Allah has provided to them for Islam. So the fact that you're here is already speaking volumes for the kind of commitment you have. And you might not think very highly of yourselves, but actually I do. And Allah Azza wa Jal, perhaps Allah Azza wa Jal holds you in very high regard. And may Allah accept this gathering and gatherings like this one and make us sincere in them. Now what I wanted to talk about, this crisis of faith, I'll share a couple of stories with you and then I'll talk about it in general. The first story is from a couple of years ago. I was giving a khutbah in a city that I don't want to name, and at the end of the khutbah, a father came up to me and said, "I'd really like you to have lunch at our house. I want you to talk to my daughter." And I said, "Okay, I guess I have time." So he was right next door to the masjid too, so he took me to his house. And his daughter, he said, if you're okay with it, my daughter has some questions about Islam, etc., etc. If you don't mind, you can help answer some of them. So his daughter comes out. By the way, this is a Muslim family, born and raised Muslims. Parents are born and raised Muslims. Children are raised Muslims. And she comes out and she has piercings in strange places on her face, like on the side of her eye and like a couple on her forehead, like weird places. You look at that and you go, ouch. But anyway, so she sits down. I'm kind of weirded out at this point, but okay, you know what? Let's have her ask her questions. And she had about 30 of those. She had about 30 questions. And I didn't answer any of them. I just said, so what else? I kept saying, what else? And she kept adding stuff. And she had questions like, well, I have some friends at high school and they're gay and they're not bad people. They haven't killed anyone. So why do we hate them so much? And why did God make a hell? Why did he have to do that? What's the point? And if he wanted to make a hell, then why did he create us to begin with? If he knows we're going to go there, then why did he do that to us? And she said, well, what's so bad about having a boyfriend? It's not like, murder. I'm not that bad. What's the big deal? Well, why did we make such a big deal out of everything? And I said, at this point, internally, I've already had 3 heart attacks, but externally, I'm saying to her, what else? And she just keeps going and going and going. And mind you, her father is sitting there. So if I'm having seizures, I felt really sad for him. I really did. And she just kept going and going. And at the end of her 30 questions, I said, okay, I'm willing to spend time with you and discuss these issues with you, but I'd rather you just answer one of my questions first. If you could do that, then we can probably have a good, well-directed conversation. There was a copy of Quran sitting on the dining table, so I picked it up. I said, do you really actually believe this is from God? Sent by an angel, through an angel, to a man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And whatever this has is perfect instruction for you and for me to live our lives in the best possible way. And if we live our lives this way, we'll find happiness here and forever. And if we don't, we'll find misery here and forever. Do you actually believe that? She goes, no, I'm not so sure. So she told me flat out, I'm not so sure. I said, well, then all of those other questions don't matter. None of that stuff matters. That's what I would call a crisis of faith. That's the first crisis of faith. And she's not the only one. I've seen this story play itself out. And a lot of people have those kinds of questions. They don't ask them. They don't ask them. A lot of people, I'm not just picking on girls here. Muslim guys, they'll be raised in a religious family and they know certain things are haram. And they'll, in their head they'll say, why is it haram? Why can't I do that? And they'll just say, Allah said so. You say that for everything. And then if somebody was to ask them, so what's Islam? Everything's haram. Here's my summary. All right? Islam equals don't smile, don't have fun, don't live life, because all of that stuff is haram. It's forbidden, right? And of course it's reinforced because when you come to a typical masjid across the country, all you see is people that are frowning all the time. It's like mamnu' at-tabassum, right? It's forbidden to smile here. Like if they even see a child running a little bit with a smile, hey, masjid. Don't you see the sign says sadness only? It's like a depressing thing. So, a child even growing up in a Muslim community, in an Islamic school he goes to, I'm not knocking on any Islamic schools here in Maryland, I don't know enough. But generally, it's run by some very angry aunties. The kids that are in class are just seeing angry people all the time. And the more religious they are, the angrier they are. Right? The longer the beard gets, the bigger the frown is. Very hard to smile. So they're in this environment all the time, and there's some questions that start popping in their head. Why am I even Muslim? Everybody around me is so miserable. They can't do anything. Every time I want to do something fun, they say haram. They say wrong. And all the friends I have in school, they say they're going to hell. What do you want me to do? Internally, a young man, a young girl, a young boy starts getting a little turned off by the religion. They start getting turned off by it. And then on top of that, most parents, let's be honest, most parents, even if they want to put their children in Islamic schools, they can't afford to. A lot of times they can't. It's a tough economy. It's not easy to afford, So most of our kids go to public school. That's a reality. It's not something you should embarrass people about. It's just a reality of Muslims living in this country. They go to public school. So parents feel guilty that they're not themselves able to give a quality religious education. They're certainly not getting one at school. Might as well put my child in Sunday school, right? That'll help. It won't. It doesn't. Ask your child if it helped. Right? I asked the controversial question, if you want to gauge, and I love Sunday schools, by the way. I used to run one, and I think they're a blessing, and they're an important effort in the effort to educate our children. Nonetheless, ask the average child that is sitting in Sunday school, any given Sunday. You just pull up, take one random kid from, especially a teenager, 12, 13, older. Pull them aside. Do you want to be here? Just ask them that one question. Do you want to be here? What is the overwhelming answer you will find? They've already served 5 days in prison at school. The prison for a child is behind a desk. And what do parents do? You need to serve some extra time. Here's a 6th day in prison. By definition, kids hate class. It's, when the bell rings for recess, you should look at, I used to be a teacher at a school, And one of the ways I would punish students if they were misbehaving is the bell for recess would ring, and I say, you can't leave yet. You have to finish 10 more problems. And you see all these kids sitting there. And as the bell rings, the temperature in their seats rises. And it hurts to stay inside your seat. And then they look outside the window and they see others entering the gates of paradise. You know? And they're like, oh, yeah. Can we go, please, please, please? Just anything but here. Anything but here. They hate being in a class. And what do? We stick them in another class. And when we stick them in another class, oh, at least it should be fun, right? No. Not going to be fun either. Somebody's going to come and they're going to, my second story now. My second story. This has actually happened in a Sunday school I used to be a part of. The class next to me was a bunch of teenage boys, or preteens, like 11 to 13, younger guys. Teacher walks in and says, today, children, I'm going to tell you the best story of all time. The best. Do you know what it is? This kid raised his hand. Yes, you can tell me what it is. Dragon Ball. This kid next to him goes, no, Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu Hakusho, something. This other kid goes, no, Naruto. And this other kid, and they start arguing with each other. No, that's the best story. No, that video game had the best storyline. And the sequel was even better because it went backwards in time. And the other one goes, no, did you see that movie? Oh my God, it was awesome. Have you seen the third season of this or that or the other? Oh my goodness, this argument breaks out in class. And the teacher standing there in shock, his jaw is dropped. He doesn't know what to do. Like, no. This is all wrong. I meant the story of Yusuf in the Quran. Because you know Allah Azza wa Jal says, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ كَمَا قَالَهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى. He said himself, we're narrating on to you, in fact, the best of all possible stories. This is a claim made by Allah. And so he was expecting the child who raised his hand to say, yes, I know the best of all stories. It's the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. Nobody said that. It wasn't even a contender. It wasn't even a contender. So he says, no, children, you're all wrong. The best story is the story of Yusuf. And the kids go, oh, I already know that one. Okay, yeah, sure, it's the best. Do you think they really believe it's the best? That's a crisis of faith right there. Allah said something. And our children sitting in a Sunday school, in a masjid, in the house of Allah, no matter how badly you want them to believe that, they don't. They're just saying it because you want to hear it. They're just saying it because you want it. That's a crisis of faith. That's a huge crisis. We have to understand how to address that crisis. All the other problems we have for our youth, and if you want to make a list of those and have programs about those, how Facebook is a fitna, how YouTube is a fitna, how the internet is a fitna, how stepping outside of your house is a fitna, how high school is a fitna, how the mall is a fitna, how your friends are a fitna, how your car is a fitna, how your cell phone is a, goodness gracious, oxygen is a fitna at that point, right? The list keeps going. I'm saying that list is superfluous. I'm arguing that stuff is fluff. We have to look underneath that fluff and look at what the real problem is. The real problem is a crisis of faith. We need to understand the problem. And the problem is our youth are not confident, not proud, not in love with Islam. They're not confident in the Quran. They're not confident that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the absolute best role model. No one deserves to be loved more. No one deserves to be followed more. No one. My third story is part of crisis of faith. I mentioned the story at the ICNA convention too. We're flying to the ICNA convention. I usually take my whole family, all 28 of them. I have 6 children. I lose count sometimes. But anyway, so we're flying together. My kids are little, so they're short, so they can't really see over the seat in the plane. So they're little, they're sitting there. And my wife and I were taller, so we can see the TV screen when it drops, right? So there's a movie playing. We don't want to see it, but it's in your face right here. And of course, alhamdulillah, we don't have headphones, so it's a silent film at that point. And it was the Justin Bieber documentary. Yeah. Imagine that. Well, thankfully it was a silent film, right? So, move forward, they say. And also license plate number. I'm kidding. Okay, just move forward as much as you can. Thanks for moving. I really appreciate that. Not all at once, please, calm down. Okay.
There are spaces in the front.
Yeah, there's spaces in the front, please take them. Okay. So, this documentary that is playing, I'm trying to avoid looking at it, but I can't help myself. I can't help myself because they're showing this kid come and start singing his songs, and girls in the audience are crying. Like, you could tell they're just like, we love you so much, I'll die for you. And mothers bringing their daughters to concerts. And then somebody's handed a voucher that says you get to meet him backstage. You should see the family, how they're jumping up and down in joy. And in the course of that video, I was like, oh man, these people have nothing to look up to. This is all they have to look up to. They're so happy at this. They're so happy at this. How sad a life can it be? And next clip, there's a Muslim girl. She's wearing a hijab. She's handed a voucher. You're going to get to meet Justin Bieber. And she's going around a tree, hugging it and going crazy. And she's not the only Muslim girl that would do that. She's not. Don't say, astaghfirullah, what kind of Muslim? That's the average Muslim girl. That's normal. Okay? So now we have a crisis, not just of faith, but some of the fruits of faith. What are some of the fruits of faith? The faith itself is you're convinced Islam is true, right? That's faith itself. You're convinced Islam is true. But beyond that, a step above that is you take pride in it. And a consequence of that is everything that is not Islam no longer appeals to you. Everything that contradicts Islam, you don't, not only are you not attracted to it, you feel sad for people who are. You look at it as something beneath you. Let me tell you what a great thing for Muslims would be. A point of pride for Muslims would be. Instead of a young Muslim man thinking, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do the other, everything is haram, look at my friends, they get to do this and that and the other. Instead of a Muslim girl who's going to high school and she's wearing hijab and everybody makes comments at her and pokes fun at her and says weird things to her. Or girls tell her, you look so ugly because of that thing on your head, etc., etc. And she's thinking in her head, you know, I wish I could be like those other girls. They get to do whatever they want. I can't do anything. I can't have any fun in life. The only thing that's keeping me from being happy is Islam. Wow, there's some huge transformation happening on this side. What is going on? Was it something I said? I'll wait. I'll wait for this Baltimore revolution to be over. Take your time, take your time.